you were facing some federal charges. What exactly happened there?
Okay, so yeah, so what had happened was no, I had I'm a big 2A guy, right? So I love the Second Amendment as a guy who used to host Magapod, just obviously, and I'm a well known, and I've said this on my show, I'm a libertarian. I say that everywhere. Right, I got the Rattler right there on my forearm. I think you can see a little bit of it, and I got this other 76. I love America. I love the Second Amendment. Like I'm a huge Second Amendment guy. Um, I was a guy who used to buy guns at gun shows all the time. Like I always collect them. I always buy like long rifles, AR-15s, AK-47s. And then one time at a gun show, this guy came up to me. He was like, "Hey man, can I buy one?" And the gun show, the rule was you could sell in Arizona. You could sell private sale, and you have no background check. You just literally sell it to anyone. You're supposed to ask like, "Are you a citizen?" Blah blah blah. But like we all knew the game that was being played, and rightfully so. It's not a game. That's a right of every American to own a weapon, and then there's no rules about selling a weapon. The Constitution literally says it can't be infringed. So, if you're one of nut job like me, so I started working with these guys. I would sell them. And then I got to the point where I was like, "Oh, I'm going to bring you a whole bag full of shit." And then it got more and more and more. And I love doing this because I could make money, and then I could still run comedy venues all throughout the week. So I could go do this one day a week, and then I'd be in New Mexico, and then it'd be all over Arizona and Nevada and San Diego. And I could literally just go work for one day a week, and I could go run comedy spots, which was like a dream at the time, because that's what you want is especially as a comedian who doesn't live in LA or New York, like you're the most precious thing you can get is stage time. So I was literally doing this to get stage time, and they caught me down there, and I almost got caught on the other side of the border. I was able to work my way over, but I was able to use my old offensive lineman skills to get over to get back to the American side. And then we went back and forth, and we looked like we were going to be able to settle everything out, and then just kind of fell through for other reasons, because when you sell a gun, people don't usually buy guns to show them off as home pieces. You know what I mean? Especially people who are buying guns to take them south of the border. They don't buy them to display in a home. They buy them to use them. So these got caught up, and I ended up like I said earlier in this episode, it's like literally like everything's going right for me, and now here I got to go away for 27 months. So I got sentenced to 27 months. I only did 18. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. The first couple of months were bad because I did the whole thing, moving all over the country to get to the right place. But once I got to my final destination, it was really just tough. And even though everything that happened there, like losing that show and kind of missing my shot to be the off-brand Ben Shapiro, like, or the off-brand Crowder. Like, well, Crowder's already a little bit off-brand, but like all that kind of went away from me. Like everything was like a blessing in disguise. Like that timeout I needed in my life, being able to reboot my show. I knew that I was going to come back. I just didn't know how, and I wanted to do something that was more focused on my ideas rather than be so connected to an ideology. So everything that's happened to me is just like I said, been a complete blessing, even in disguise. And I've learned from it, and I've grown from it. And even though I'm definitely still a huge 2A guy, I still believe in being able to sell guns at gun shows and things like that. Like I'm obviously out of the loop, but yeah, I wouldn't label it all as a negative experience. I think I took a lot of lessons from it, life lessons from it, from what happened. And I think I'm a better person for it. I'd like to believe.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing of people make mistakes, and I'm a firm believer in people getting second chances, and nobody's perfect in this life. We all like to think we can be, but nobody is.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
but yeah, the fact that you consider it a blessing in disguise, just shows a lot of growth, in my opinion. Because people can look at that type of situation and think, "Oh, what did I do to deserve this?" But you took a different approach and looked at it as a blessing in disguise, and you've learned from it and growed from it. So
Yeah, and even though there were very hard times, like there were some real like quiet times, like the crazy thing about the federal or any place, anytime you're in prison is like it's the you know you're the loneliest you've ever been, because you don't really have any friends there. Your family's obviously away from you, especially when you're out of state and your family can't visit you. So you have the most crowds around you, but you're the loneliest you can ever be in your life. You can literally be surrounded by other dudes, but you're literally lonely. And it's hard to do with those things. Like you can't do Thanksgiving with your family, you can't do Christmas, you can't, then you see other guys and you see like their mom passes away, and they're in there and they can't get out, and like there's all these there. You see I saw a gentleman who was part of our Bible study who was he was dying of cancer, and they wouldn't give him they wouldn't early release him, so he literally had to go to North Carolina to pass away at a cell. And you just think like when you start valuing the things in your life and you start thinking about your decisions, you start thinking about like I was taking shortcuts, right? Like I could have had a regular job and I still could have ran those spots. I was taking a shortcut. And like that's what happens when you do those shortcuts. And I've said this before. I don't think I've said this on my show. Maybe I haven't said this before on anywhere, but like, when you get sentenced and you do your bid, you think like, okay, well, this is me. This is happening to me. Like I feel bad for myself. I'm sad. Like, but it's not you who just does that time. It's the rest of your family that does the time. It's your girlfriend, it's your mom, it's your family. They're the ones who got to serve that time because you're not there, and they're feeling that pain as well. And I think that's like I saw so much amazing growth from not only myself but from other dudes who I was in there with that I still stay in contact with, who all thank God have not ended up back. And like I think for a lot of guys who have that mentality, that kind of before that criminal thinking, you can have criminal thinking and not be a criminal, but like you think, oh, I'm gonna take shortcuts, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I can do this, and I can focus on what I want, and I'm gonna do this. Like when you have that time out to evaluate what's really, really important in life, family, friends, love and things like that, then you kind of learn how to measure what's valuable to you, and also how to make the proper decisions.
I mean, like that's the thing. Like a lot of people end up there, and it either makes them worse or better. And
Oh
you're,
yeah,
yeah,
the rate of recidivism is like it's well, not so much for lower end, but for middle end. I mean, you're talking about 60-70%. So that means like you got 10 guys go in and then seven are going to go right back. And that's just, and a lot of it said because the system is not set up for rehabilitation, it's set up for punishment. Like, yeah, you want to punish a person, you don't want to rehabilitate them, you don't want to get them back into society. They walk around with a scarlet letter the rest of their lives. They got to like work these jobs that are not necessarily the best for them. And like there's a weight you carry even after you're done, that you still got to carry the rest of your life in American society. And it's a blessing to meet people like yourself, or like my co-hosts, who are like, hey, people deserve a second shot. I think it's fair. But there's a lot of people who are like want to write you off. They're like, oh, this guy's an ex-con, what does he know? He's this guy must be like a gangster or something. Like it's really tough. And I think that's why I'm so honest with it on my show, and how I've been like, I'm just going to be transparent about it, because I don't want people down the road to be like, oh yeah, this guy's this, Mark's that, he had this in his past. Like I put all my business out there on Front Street. I let everybody know what's going on. And then if you dig it, you dig it. And if you don't, because you want to hold something against me, then I'm probably not the right guy for you. But like, I believe in like true honesty.
and I respect that completely. The transparency, the honesty, for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, but you mentioned that the system is set up for punishment rather than rehabilitation. And I completely agree with you, because I think that's the one thing that America does so poorly on is our prison system, because other countries set it up for rehabilitation, and people might look at that and be like, oh, well, you're just, catering to prisoners and stuff like that. I'm like, no, it's not like that. Like, because that's the thing, like, if you focus on rehabilitation rather than punishing a person, then maybe they'll be like, you know what, I did a bad thing, but I'm learning to become a better person, and I think that should be the goal.
Yeah,
But
I'd say most guys, like, I mean, my crime was literally money based, like greed based, but like most of the guys who are in there, it's because of they at one point in their lives turned to drugs. Like they turned to drugs for whatever. Like these are desperation acts. Like you're doing dope, and then all of a sudden now you got to sell dope, or now you got to do this to make money to buy dope. Like there's so many guys like I saw like that. Like I'd say like maybe 8 out of 10 guys were guys who were victims of just being addicts. Like me, I probably needed that time because I was doing the wrong thing, and I knew I was doing the wrong thing. Like I have no excuse for, I was just doing it to take a shortcut. But like a lot of those guys, I say 8 out of 10 were just like, they were in this world of stuck in a cycle of using drugs and not being able to get off drugs, and then they go there and then they literally dry out, or they get stuff inside and then they're right back in the cycle again. I think that's where the disconnect in American society is. Like a lot of these guys like need you know they need drug help, they need help fighting addiction, they need that more than they need time in a cell. And I think anyone who's ever kicked anything, not that I have, but I have family members who have, but it's its own struggle. I mean, it's almost worse than prison because, prison, you do your time, you get out, you kind of keep your nose clean. But if you're addicted to heroin or pills, like that's always going to be in there. You'll never not be a prisoner of that your whole life. That'll always be looming in the background. You get dental work, you do this, you do that. You got to worry about what you're taking. Like that's the kind of prison that will hold you your whole life. And that's one of the most messed up things about our system is that there's really no drug care. There's really no drug treatment once you go inside.
Right.
To watch this full episode, click the link in the description below or search The Cody Springer Show on Spotify or listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and many more. Stay tuned for more content on the official YouTube channel of The Cody Springer Show.